Just a quick little update video about the 1/24th scale car, the little drift car. New servo in, so I can have full steering, and I guess that was a little bit of work. Not too bad. Maybe took, I don't know, 45 minutes and 15 minutes for the glue and everything to dry, something like that. But yeah, I had to figure out how to mount the servo in there and then make a little custom little bracket for it. And so now you can see it's not just like full turn one way and full turn the other way. I have like all these little increments. I can even adjust like the steering trim to get everything like dialed in. So yeah, I thought I'd show you guys this part before moving on and covering all this stuff up, and then it won't be seen anymore. So here we are with the somewhat finished car. Not completely done yet. So what's going on is I ran out of hot glue and stuff in the back. I gotta pick some up either tonight. I might go out, or maybe tomorrow pick up some more hot glue and stuff. So I added this little tape strip to kind of secure the prop in the back for when it's thrusting. And we got a taped on battery. I'm eventually gonna just Velcro a side of the batteries and Velcro the top of the car. And it might sit here and it might sit up there depending on how the car performs. I cut out the slot for the servo. It's obviously pretty big, and I kind of overcut it out because the ESC in here doesn't have a fan that's down in there, and so I wanted it to get a little bit of airflow coming in, and then the back is open and the prop should be sucking air out, so we should get air out. So the car still has a little bit of shock going on. It does not have any other lights hooked up. I'm not fancy like that, and I'd rather just have a little bit more runtime than have lights. Like it used to have, well, it still does have it if I want to hook it up later, but 2 white headlights. It has 4 blue lights under the car and 2 red lights in the back if I want to hook that up and then be draining my battery. So what's going on is I took out the 4-wheel drive system. So it used to have you know, drivetrain going to the front wheels. I took all that out, and I also took out the front little dog bones, and that was somewhat of a mistake. I wanted the front wheels to roll freely, but it's going to be hard to tell on video. But the front tires can move in a little and out a little, because the dog bone, when it was in there, it kind of forced the tires to stay out to their maximum potential. So eventually I'm probably gonna have to get back in there and put the dog bones back in just to keep the wheels out. We'll see how the driving goes. And for now, it's that's the stock battery it came with. And these little cars, I'll post like a screenshot or something of how these cars come. They're a pretty good deal. You get a rechargeable battery. It's a 4.8 volt 700 milliamp rechargeable battery. It comes with a little cheap charger. It comes with 4 drift tires and 4 grippy tires and a little tool to change the tires. It comes with a little remote and 2 AA batteries for the remote. It's all-wheel drive. It has lights. It's a decent toy for like $15. It was a $15 car eventually. Initially $15 or so. Now we have a servo. I forget where I got it. It's not a great servo, but it's good enough for this right here. We have a prop off of an old helicopter. Just using that for thrust here. And it's rear-wheel drive now, no longer four-wheel drive. I did that for a couple reasons. I didn't want the extra weight and stuff going on to strain the motor anymore. The motor is just like these little cheap, like the cheapest kind of little motors you can get. And so I didn't want to be straining the motor with the extra weight and trying to drive 4 wheels. And since I have thrust going to be helping to push, I'd rather just have thrust and 2-wheel drive and really try to make it like more of a drift car than an RC drift car. We got a speed control in there. I'll post a link or a screenshot of the speed control. It's from old on-road setup. It can take like 12 nickel metal hydride cells at like 14.4 volts maximum. I believe it's 100 amp ESC. I'll post a screenshot of that. An old receiver from an Associated ready to run 16th scale, I believe. I think it was like the 16B. And yeah, that's basically it. So this battery is 4.4 volts, like I said, and that came to run just these really small, cheap motors. And now we have more amp draw. So the speed control, that's probably a really weak battery for the speed control. And since we have the motor here driving the prop and the wheel motor in there driving the rear wheels, this battery isn't gonna cut it. So I'm gonna have to step up, order some new smaller batteries. The only like 2S batteries and stuff I have are pretty big. So I'm gonna have to step my game up, get some small like micro 2S batteries or something like that. We'll see how it goes on 2S. If it's too slow on 2S, I'm going to up it probably to 9 volts and then see how everything goes. Like if it's too slow, I'm gonna have to upgrade. But yeah, and if something breaks, I'll just replace it. Or I'm thinking I might not even rock with the drivetrain in here. It's just little plastic gears and, you know, cheap parts. So putting a better motor might just strip the plastic gears. So if the motor fails, I'm probably just gonna work with thrust and beef up the thrust. Maybe put an EDF, more powerful brushless thrust system on top and rock with that, you know. So now just starting it up. Let's see. So even with you can see this is the throttle trim, and it's turned all the way down, but you still get a little bit of stutter. And this battery isn't fully charged right now, I don't think, but you get a little bit of stutter. And then when I hit the throttle, you get more. But it's really slow right now because this battery is underpowered for the dual setup and everything, and the ESC like I was talking about. So shortly I'll throw another battery on. You'll see the footage of that. 7.2 volt nickel metal hydride, somewhat charged. Connecting. We have power. Powering on remote. Alright. Probably hard to tell on video, but this is going slightly uphill. The other way is going slightly downhill. And yeah, I can't throw the throttle back any lower, so I'm gonna have to get on the brake, I think. Because this is trimmed down all the way, but this old radio, partly the reason it is getting replaced, it's an old like megahertz radio, and it's an old glitchy one. Something's up with the crystals, I think. But yeah, any further than this and we get the glitch, and the throttle trim is down to maximum, so woo. So we'll take it down to maybe the dance studio, get a little open area, see what it's like on 7.2 volt nickel metal hydrides, probably not fully charged. Alright, so here we are back. Kill that for a minute. Well, what I believe is going on here is the motor that I used is exactly the same housing and everything, but like I said before, it was the servo motor, and even though they look exactly the same, I believe the internals are completely different. And even when you spin the little the shaft here, you can feel how the motors were different. And so the motor that's powering this back wheel now or the rear-wheel drive, is just really a crappy motor. Not as good even as the crap one that came in it. So last night you saw it run on the 7.4 volt Li-ion battery, and really not that impressive. The thrust coming out of the prop is being held back by how fast the wheels are spinning. And I thought about just making it a free rolling car and testing the top speed just with the prop and the thrust, but you know, that's gonna be kind of womp. It's a bunch of thrust and prop cars on YouTube and EDF cars. When it's just EDF powered alone, it's pretty womp, and that's not what we do here at Jet Noise Huge Motors. So last night I tried a 9 volt nickel metal hydride, and everything held up, but this motor is still pretty womp. It actually was drifting around. I put the grip tires on the front and kept the slicks on the back, and it was drifting around in the kitchen and stuff, but it was kind of still womp. I need to figure out what's up with the steering. The steering is all right. Bear with me with the sound of the prop and everything when I turn it back on. But like, I got left, I got right, you know, it's proportional, and it's turned down as much as I can turn down the steering rate, so I can get a little bit more left and right out of it. But I can tell when I'm turning the wheel, it reaches a point where the wheel stops, but the servo's still yanking at it, like right there. And the other way, I go left, and at a certain point the wheel stops, but the servo's still trying to crank. So that's no good for the servo. I'll blow out the servo eventually with stuff like that going on. So it's a servo like this in there, and I got to see if this back part is hitting or hitting the chassis or something in there, stopping it. And I'm probably just going to cut off that back end of the servo in there to make sure it's not hitting anything. And then I got to, you know, do something better than this little rack and pinion steering or whatever I set up in there. The original steering came with a little spring in there, and I kind of just straightened out a part, bent it, heated it up with a lighter, and then stuck it through the little plastic gear in there, and basically jimmy rigged that, and it's all right. It works. I got left and right proportional steering. It's just not the best, and so I want to work on that a little bit, and I ordered a motor that's a lot better than the servo motor that's in there now, and a lot better than this cheapie that came with it. Like I said, this car was a $14, $15 ready to run kit with everything, rechargeable battery, remote, and everything for 15 bucks. So it's a really cheap car. So I'll screenshot the motor going on with this guy. They have a range on hobbyking.com that ranges from the Torque series all the way up to, I believe, their Mach 1 series, and it's like 1400 revolutions per minute, all the way up to a motor that maxes out at 28,000 revolutions per minute. And so what I think is going on, since they all have the same generic housing, is the Torque motor at 1400 revolutions per minute is wound inside to have a lot more torque, maybe for heavier RC cars with big tires, like little monster truck cars and things like that. And then up to the 28,000, you get a lot more revolutions, but it's probably a lot less torquey. So through gearing and with your car, like, you got to decide what you want. Since my car has such small wheels, and this being a 1/24 scale, I'm probably going to order 2 of the higher ranging RPM motors with less torque, also because we have a prop on the back that's going to be pushing the car, alleviating a lot of that thrust off of the drivetrain, combined with the fact that I've made it rear-wheel drive instead of four-wheel drive, so we don't have to power the shaft coming up to the front gears and powering the front wheels. So it should be a lot less torque on the car, even though the car is going to weigh the same or weigh a little more with my modifications. And besides that, this whole radio that's ready to run and this receiver is pretty crap. I know I shouldn't have the receiver like this, and the antenna is coming through a bunch of motor wires back here, probably causing interference being that close to that motor and all these wires. But it should have an antenna, but this remote's still crap. I might switch it out to this old ready to run receiver and remote, or I might even go ahead and hook it up with like a 2.4 gigahertz system that I'm not using anymore. I was thinking about using this on my 16th scale when I get that back up and running. So yeah, parts coming in for the 16th scale, and parts coming in for this guy, a much better motor and things, and then you'll get an update on this guy. But for now, this guy will go back on the rack and wait for its parts to be shipped in with its remote control in the back. Like I was saying, I might give it the 2.4 gigahertz radio or that other one. I'll probably try out that other old one first, because this one is probably going to get linked up with this car, getting a new motor in for this guy. And this guy pretty much just needs a new receiver, and it'll be ready to go. The receiver I took out of that went into that. That's why it says associate down there on that radio. So yeah, I want to get a new motor. I blew the original motor on this car and I replaced it with the helicopter motor. It just doesn't perform the same, and the pinion gear is smaller. I'm going to get a better motor for this guy. Throw an EDF on it also. One day get that guy running, probably with this remote. But what I won't do is put my cell phone on the front again. I tried to make I made a custom mount for it so I could just get extra like B-roll footage off my cell phone and controller. But the first day I had this up and running is actually the first day that I crashed the J2. And so this is actually the car that I took the ESC out of. So it's a 10th scale ESC, can go up to like 14.4 volts or something. It was a good racing ESC back in the day. This was a Roadrunner Express, like Traxxas. This is a Roadrunner, and like the X01, the name of the car is the Express, 10 scale, 4-wheel drive, on-road, belt-driven. You can see I used to compete with it. Got like 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place at SoCal Raceway. And after you place good and get 1st place so many times, they kick you out of the novice class. I was in the intermediate class with this guy, and never got 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in the intermediate class. They all were pretty good. So this guy's probably going to stay retired. I might maybe one day make it an EDF only car, so free rolling wheels and an EDF maybe, but probably not, because I don't even think you can find parts for this car. So if you had to fix it, you would have to Frankenstein something together, and that's just a whole lot of work I don't want to do. I'd rather just get a new on-road car. So yeah, the ESC out of that guy is now in this small ass car. But yeah, so it's just a retired car with this plaques in the back. This is the first 4-wheel drive plus thrust powered car that was ever created. And the problem was the diffs kept stripping out. So maybe this guy will get turned into a free rolling EDF car one day also, but no guarantees. And I think they don't support parts for this hobby people outlaw anymore either. So probably it's just going to be a shelf queen from now on, taking up space until I get other cars to take its place on the shelf. And so up top, the main goals here we go, main cars. This is the Sabertooth that I call the J1. It's the Jet Noise Huge Motors J1. Turn on one of its lights. Has rear lights too, brake light, front light, so I can see it at night from really far away. Make sure cars don't roll over it in the street. And it's running. There's nothing wrong with this car. There's never been anything wrong with this car. But I upgraded the ESC to handle 6S. The motor is upgraded to a new motor to handle 6S. But the ESC and the motor is actually running backwards. Like when my EDF is throttling forward, my wheels are throttling backwards. So I just went ahead and got this guy. If you can see, like number 9 there is motor rotation. So I wanted to get this and just make it right. Instead of like, yeah, I could have unsoldered and, you know, cross wires of the EDF to change the direction of the EDF. But I just ordered the ESC card. Maybe I'll use it for something else also. So now that I got that, the J1 is going to be ready to run. So J1 controller, J2 controller, they're exactly the same. I know some people are going to be like, why'd you get 2 of the same remotes? You could have just got an extra receiver and used the same remote. Yep, but what if I want to run the cars at exactly the same time? Have maybe my brother driving one, somebody else driving one, me driving the other, and racing the 2 cars. So I just got a whole nother remote. The original remote was decent. It was this guy over here. It just glitched out when I put the cell phone on it. And since it was only a 2-channel remote, I couldn't throw in the 3rd channel gyro. Because the J2 over here, unlike the Sabertooth, the Rattler over here, it does not have a center differential. So it's kind of like an XO1. And if you get on the throttle too much, it gets sideways on you really quick. And just makes it a lot harder to control. So I got the gyro, so when it gets sideways, it can correct itself automatically with this little onboard gyro computer system. Got some little extra lights for it, the receiver for it, so all that's ready to go in. And when the radio glitched out, we broke the back rear wing mount. One of those got messed up. Got that part. The right rear wheels had some problems. You probably can't see it on video, but yeah, that thing is kind of bent. So I didn't know if the problem was just the hub itself. So I got the hub carrier in case that got kind of messed up in the crash. Got some extra bearings just in case for later. Got a diff shim just in case for later. Also here in the crash, this wing and cell phone was mounted to the front here. Something like this guy, but it had the cell phone on it too. I don't know why I chose such a crappy location to put the cell phone, but it was just on there to get GPS data to see how fast we're going and stuff like that. So probably gonna have to order a new phone. Probably gonna get like that cheap $50 phone featured on Unbox Therapy. That's crappy, but I can just download the GPS app and then strap it on somewhere not on the front of the car again. I put the wing on the front of the car to keep the nose of the cars down. How many times have you seen videos of people RCing and then their front nose comes up and then the car flips over and they crash? So I put the wing on the front.
So fast. It's scary fast almost.